Celeste Gonzalez, Anna de la Cruz, and Catherine Kim. Celeste Gonzalez is a content implementation and product specialist at Last Mile Retail. She crafts thoughtful, data-driven strategies that turn visibility into real impacts. Her work blends creativity, analytics, and intention to help brands grow with purpose. Anna de la Cruz is an SEO lead at Chartist.io. With a BFA in film and media production and over 8 years SEO experience, she specializes in video optimization and YouTube content strategy and has led various projects for clients in the finance, e-commerce, and SaaS industries. Catherine Kim is an SEO specialist at RisePoint. She enjoys blending creative thinking with strategic implementation and is passionate about delivering content that refines complex customer journeys, improves user engagement, and increases conversions. Welcome, Celeste, Anna, and Catherine. Please take
Thank
it away,
you.
friends. We're so
Yeah.
excited to see this presentation. Thanks so much for doing this for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. Yeah, it's been really great being able to connect with Anna and Catherine on this and just get to collaborate and show each person's unique approach to sentiment analysis. So we're really excited to share that with everyone here.
Great.
Yes, very excited.
Okay, we want to just kick it off?
Sure.
All right. So I figured we should just start with an overall what is sentiment analysis before I get into the whole data pulling part of this. Um, Basically, sentiment analysis is a way to read text, could be reviews text, survey text, and sort it by emotional tone. So you can put this into a spreadsheet, it can be a document, and you can filter, sort, and act on it. And that's what we'll be going through today. So with analyzing by sentiment, you'll usually get three different buckets. So you get a positive, negative, and neutral bucket of what the overall emotional tone is of the text that you're analyzing. All right, and why does this matter? This is, women in tech SEO. Why are we talking about sentiment? What does that have to do with the work that we do day to day? Well, now with AI search, we've found that sentiment analysis and just the reviews text and what people are saying about brands matters a lot more. There was a study by Sierra Interactive and Trustpilot that sort of just went through what was being cited, and that it found that the citation source in AI search was typically review sites. So that was the number two biggest thing that they found that was being cited. So AI reads the reviews so the buyers don't have to, and it summarizes them. And we see this in places like Google's Ask Maps. If you go to a Google business profile, sometimes they have the summaries of reviews. If you go shopping on Amazon, sometimes you'll see them there too, or TripAdvisor. There's lots of resources or places where you're going to see these overall little sentiment reviews based on other reviews. And I'm from the local space, so reviews are like the biggest thing to me. But Anna's going to be able to get into some social media stuff too, which is super exciting. The other part of this study was it cited the echo effect, and basically that the AI, whatever you're using to talk to whichever LLM, ChatGPT, amplifies whatever's being said about that brand. So if something's really great, it's going to make that huge. It's the magnitude of it is going to be much greater. And if a lot of things are sort of negative about the brand, that's going to be magnified as well. Can we do the next slide?
Yes.
Yeah. So the reason why that matters and why we want to understand what's being said about brands is because that's going to affect our conversions. People are doing their searches in ChatGPT or other LLMs. They're reading these things about what they're saying about these brands online, and that affects, conversions. That affects getting them to the website. That affects them making a purchase, picking up the phone. So you're going to want to grab all this data yourself. You're going to want to figure out the best way possible for you to do that. And I figured for an easy lower code, vibe coding option. I have a zero code background and I started just vibe coding my own tools, and I found it really easy to work with this website. It's called Apify or apify.com. And basically what it does is you get an API key and you're able to connect to a bunch of different scrapers on here. Now, if you are a lot more technical or if you have dev support, you can absolutely create your own scrapers and get into that, but I wanted something that was easy, simple to just run with. So this website has it for everything: TikTok, Instagram, Reddit, Google Maps, tons of scrapers, super easy to use. I'm not sponsored by this place at all, and it's pretty cheap. I think like their lowest, you can do this for free, like you get a good amount of credits per month. Um, I think it's like $5 or $10 a month you get, and then like a crawl could be like 20 cents. So it goes pretty far in just the free plan. I think like the next up plan is like 20 bucks. And then some of the scrapers, like the Reddit one, can get pretty expensive. Okay, yeah, next slide. Okay, so we're going to want to vibe code the setup guide. So if you don't have any technical experience like me with something like this, you're going to want to go ahead and start talking to your LLM of choice. Claude Code is pretty great. If you use Claude Code, you're going to have to connect it to your GitHub or to a local file. You can use ChatGPT as well, or just Claude Chat instead of Claude Code. And you're just going to want to explain exactly what you want. I find it's easiest to work with Google Colab because then it's easy for me to share these tools with my friends and share it with other people. So what you'll be receiving today is this public GBP and Yelp reviews extractor collab. You'll be able to make a copy of it and run it yourself. So this is already set up. But what I recommend doing if you want to start working with some of the other APIs in Apify or apify.com is starting small with your prompt. And I can go to the next slide. You're going to want to break it down cell by cell. So let's say you're going to chat in Claude or ChatGPT and you're going to say, I want to use this API. So we're going to use, let's just say, the Google Maps API to grab reviews data. It can be just as simple as that to start. And in fact, you want to keep your first prompt pretty simple. If you start overcomplicating it, then you can run into a little bit of a mess and having to clean it up each time. So if you start small and then you keep building, it's easier to find the error and not have to go back and try to figure out what it is, especially when you're just starting. So let's say you get that code from ChatGPT or Claude and you're putting it in the collab. Make sure you do it one cell at a time for each step. That's really huge. That's been super helpful to me. If you grab the entire code that's generated by Claude or ChatGPT and paste it all in one cell and run it and it doesn't work, you're not going to easily be able to find out where it broke. So if you do it cell by cell for each step, so in part of the code, it'll say run the libraries. Put the libraries in one cell, run it. Okay, it ran the libraries, you're good. The next step, you're inputting your API token and then you're inputting your client's name, Google URL, Yelp URL, the competitor name and URLs. Run it so that way it makes sure that you have the correct URLs and it will be able to pull the data. Then the next cell will be pulling just the Google reviews data. Then the next cell will be just pulling the Yelp reviews data. So it's very important to sort of do that cell by cell so that way you can find out where anything breaks. And sometimes APIs or things get updated and these things can break even if you have it perfectly set up the first time. So by doing it like that, it's way easier to find the issues. All right, and then once you run it, you will get one clean spreadsheet every single time. So you'll see the business name, the client or competitor. So it'll say like from the very first input on that collab that we're sharing, that's your client. And then after that, it says competitor 1, competitor 2, competitor 3. The platform, so you'll be able to see, is this a Google review or a Yelp review? The reviewer name, the star rating, the text, and the date. This is just the export. We're not doing the sentiment analysis here. This is just us using ChatGPT, Claude, whatever it is, with the API to pull all the data. And then Anna's going to be getting into the actual sentiment analysis part, because while you can sort of code in your collab to use ChatGPT or Claude to do it, Anna has a way more efficient way of getting this done that she's going to be sharing. Next slide, please. All right, so no coding background needed. You've got it. You input your simple prompts into whatever your LLM of choice is. You get that code, paste it cell by cell into Colab, run it. You've got your spreadsheet, and that's it. It didn't take you didn't take a developer to get this done. You have your data, simple, clean, and easy. And then just here are some tips with that. Make sure to protect your API key. So the collab that I shared, it says like public Google and Yelp. Make sure you go in there, make a copy. I think the access that I gave is viewer access. So whenever you put in your Apify API key, you want to make sure that that's secure. If it gets leaked, people can use it and you can get charged. So you really want to make sure that that's secure. If you are going to be sharing your own collabs with other people, make sure your API key is just not in there. And start with what's public. So when you want to start pulling this data for sentiment analysis, reviews are an absolute amazing start. It's already public data. It's posted for everyone to read. You have no issues with inputting this into AI. Even if you just wanted to throw in a couple reviews into ChatGPT and be like, run a sentiment analysis for me. There's no issues with that. It's not proprietary data. So you can go ahead and throw it in and you're fine. And start small. Let's say you built your own collab and you're running it for YouTube comments or Reddit. You might not want to start with your biggest client or something really huge that has like 2,000 comments, because if something's broken, you're going to get charged a good amount every time you run until it stops. So you might want to start with something a little bit smaller, maybe a business that has like 50 reviews, see that it works, and then you can go and use those bigger clients with more data. And layer on sentiment last. So once this lands into the spreadsheet, you're going to get to decide what you want to do with how you want to be able to analyze the sentiment of it, which Anna will be getting into. And then here's just the link. You'll receive it when you get the slides here to the collab that I shared.
Nice. All right. I guess that's my cue. I'll be covering the second piece of today's conversation. Shout out to Celeste on that. Yeah, I'll be definitely walking through the Google Cloud NLP, talking a little bit more about that, taking how we can take everything already collected, like Celeste showed you, and run it through machine learning to actually understand sentiment and quantify data. Today, I want to walk you through how we use the API, obviously, and to run sentiment analysis at scale. So pulling in the text from different platforms and turning it into a read on how people actually feel, no matter where the text is coming from. The big idea here is that you have one pipeline or one workflow in any platform. This is the big idea of what I want to leave you with today. I want to start with the belief that shapes everything else here. You don't need to reinvent this process for every platform. The exact same pipeline I'll walk you through today is what I've used on YouTube comments, and it's the same one I've used on client reviews across 3 completely different platforms. So same tool, same steps, just different source feeding it. All right. 3 reasons NLP sentiment analysis works. Before I get more into the details, I want to share 3 reasons NLP sentiment analysis does a really good job. The first, I mentioned earlier, one system, any platform. Second, scale without losing nuance. So you can basically run this across anywhere from 50 to thousands of reviews, and I'll show you an example of that. And lastly, visualize and decide faster. These three things are worth remembering, because even if the rest of this blurs together afterwards, you're getting so many great ideas of what you can do. These two things are very important to keep in mind of what the purpose is of you scaling a project like this. Additionally, this isn't magic, right? Sentiment models still miss things because at the end of the day, this is still a language model, it's predicting, and it's prone to biases. So for example, a person can catch, like humans, right? Us, we can catch instantly things like sarcasm, negation, dry humor, something like, oh, great, another hour on hold. Obviously, to that, it sounds like the person is not happy that they're being on hold. But a model might read that because it saw the word great as positive if you're not paying attention. So basically, what I'm saying is the systems can help you get you most of the way there pretty fast. It doesn't replace a human sanity check on the edge cases. So always check your work no matter what. So what is Google Cloud Natural Language API? So let's just mention it. I'm going to walk you through a little bit of that today. This is a machine learning API from Google Cloud that analyzes unstructured text and returns structured insights like sentiment, entity, sentiment analysis, syntax, content categories. To quote my instructor and fellow WTSer, I had to give a shout out to Lyserina Stoy. Machine learning is a subset of AI where models are trained to make predictions. They learn from the data that you provide to them in order to determine what the correct output is for a very specific text, end quote. She's a great teacher. So basically what this is saying is that for the purpose of this analysis, we will be focusing on the specific task model for sentiment analysis. This system scores text between 1.0 positive to negative 1.0 negative. And anything in between or close to zero is neutral. And it also provides a magnitude score for emotional intensity, which means it measures from 0 to infinity how strong that emotion is behind that sentiment. It also classifies text into these standard buckets. So similar to exactly like Celeste mentioned earlier, these buckets will be your positive, your neutral, or negative. So understanding how Google's own machine learning systems have its benefits, because you are learning to read and score text that gives us insights that carries over into a broader understanding of search. So good data here. All right. I got to bring in some pop culture reference because I love Star Trek. I don't know if there's any Star Trek fans here, but I love Star Trek. It's a great positive outlook of the future, and I love it. Currently, right now, things are so bleak. I like this show because it gives us a positive view of the future. But anyways, I like to explain this part with an analogy. So bear with me for a second here. Reading words and understanding what they mean are two different jobs. And in this data and Troy approach, is a practice that I want to introduce you to kind of help you understand how you should be visualizing, but also understanding this data when you're presenting it to a client. In practice, like Data, the character in the show, is an android. It's literally the batch script that we are going to run. It runs through every row, scores it, and buckets it as positive, neutral, negative, or as granular as you want without getting tired or skipping rows to save on time. And like Troy, Deanna Troy, who is an empath and has these abilities to sense people's emotions, not going to get too much into it, but Troy approach is the part that happens after, because I am the one, or you are the one, looking at what got flagged. I get to identify what's actually worth telling a client and turning a spreadsheet into a point of view. Remember that anyone who needs to understand this data needs to understand the story. So it's essential to understand what one approach does versus your own judgment. So taking the data and Troy approach can help you kind of think about like, okay, I am running a machine, but I cannot rely on the machine. I need to add kind of like my human element to it. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. All right. So how to get the API, right? The first step is you got to create a Google Cloud project. So you will need to go on Google Cloud, set up an account, and add your billing info. When it comes down to billing info, you don't have to worry about that. It's not going to charge you tons of money. It's not a subscription, similar to how Celeste explained it earlier. You'll probably get charged a couple of cents, but it's not going to be anything crazy. Now, if you are running tons of data every day, all the time, then yeah, you might need to talk to your manager and see how you can set up an account and calculate some of that billing information. The second step is enable the natural language API. So Google Cloud has tons of APIs, and you can also do BigQuery data there as well. So it's a very big platform. So you want to enable the right one, and the one is called Natural Language API. Generate your credentials there. One more caveat, and this adds to what Celeste was saying about securing your key. You want to also make sure you restrict your key as well. And this is something that Google has made mandatory for safety purposes. So if you lose your key is restricted to only the natural language processing, because they might use that key to get into other accesses as well. So you want to restrict it. It's not a perfect safety net. There's more better safety nets out there that are more sophisticated, but the restricting is very simple and very easy to do. And lastly, connect it to your workflow. Use that key to connect it to either these examples that we're showing you today or any workflow you decide to create from any ideas that you get. And of course, I had to bring up that Serena again. Honestly, she's awesome. I am taking her courses. No, I'm not sponsored. I'm not selling you guys anything, but she is amazing. So, but if you do want to dive deeper into the steps, into how to get into these APIs, that Serena is an amazing source. She's also a fellow WTSer, so I'm pretty sure she's easy for you guys to hit her up. But the source of knowledge for these types of systems and setups, her resources are great. She's a great source for that, and very easy to follow and extremely helpful. Like I said, I'm not a sponsor, but I do want to make sure I point you to someone who is an expert in these areas to help you get on the right path. All right, so use case. Here is a use case I recently delivered that inspired this workflow, pointed at 3 different kinds of platform and data. For a client I work with in the healthcare and hospital industry, I looked at Google Business Profile, Yelp, and Reddit. So Celeste already showed you exactly how you can extract that information. And in one example that I'm going to show, I used all 3 on one client. I was able to process over 1,000 reviews and posts, which was really, really great in terms of looking at the reviews versus Reddit comments and distribution. So really interesting there. And what I learned is that each source showed different insights at a glance, which can be very beneficial when you're presenting or taking screenshots of this data for a presentation. But Yelp, even though the Google Business Profile carried the most volume, I noticed with the Yelp reviews constantly ran with more emotional intensity, meaning that there was more emotional strength behind Yelp sentiment, even though it was a small batch compared to Google Business Profile. And these are distinctions you never catch just by looking at star ratings or not running an analysis like this. It only shows up if you're actually scoring the language and quantifying the data. Obviously, the more data you have, the better. But if you're trying to deliver insights in a short amount of time, which was the case in this example, this process can be very helpful in getting you those insights faster. Now, the second use case is a bonus example we've been sharing online, and it applies to a platform like YouTube. So yes, you can even run this on social platforms as well. So if you have data from, like, let's say your LinkedIn post, or you have data from Instagram, or you have data from TikTok, again, Celeste has a great tool for that as well. Or if you're running a YouTube channel, you're working with content creators, or you're a blogger yourself, or you have a business that is a small business of bloggers that talk about pop culture, you can run this analysis on that too. Quoting earlier one of my 3 big ideas here, the 3 reasons why you should run it. It's one platform for multiple things. So you could also run it on that. So yeah, I ran it on the Odyssey trailer. And if you haven't seen the Odyssey, it's a great film. I'm not going to spoil it, obviously, but if you haven't read the book by Homer by now, it's okay. No judgment here. It's a safe space. When I run this across 3 videos, so I run it across 3 different trailers, that came out kind of in different time periods. I pulled over 6,000 comments with the YouTube API key. The YouTube API key is a whole different conversation from this one, but it is available. And again, don't mean to sound like a dead horse here, but Serena has a great resources for that YouTube API as well. So definitely hit up her website if you want to learn more there. And what I saw from the data was that overall split landed a little over a third positive. So like in total for all the 3 videos, a third was positive, about a quarter was neutral, and the majority of the half, or over a half, was all negative. Yeah, a lot of negative for some reason. Did not know why. I thought the film was great. But anyways, the headline number wasn't the useful part. What mattered to me was that I was able to look at 3 different videos and notice that one of the videos ran more negatively than another. So that also was an important insight for me. And that's the kind of signal that tells you where you actually go look. So when you're looking at this qualitative data and you're quantifying, you're actually able to pinpoint and look at where you might want to start investigating audience dissatisfaction. So it's not just the data, but actual insights into that data that you can sort and get more granular with. And I will show you some examples in shortly. All right, so some screenshots really quickly. So once you run this against the Cloud NLP API, this is what it looks like. Basically, it's very simple. What you really need is 2 columns. You need the source, obviously where you got that data from or where you got the text from. It could be either from Yelp, Google Business Profile, TikTok. You basically want to put where that source is. And obviously, most importantly, you need the text. You need text. So everything kind of downstreams from there. The scoring, the bucketing, the dashboard will all depend on how good your data is. So the idea to think here is get qualitative data to run then a quantitative data analysis. A quick note about the script though, because I will be sharing this. The way I build it is that is the hard 6-minute execution limit per run. I had to set it up this way because if not, it would take forever to run multiple analysis if you have anything that's more than 50. I'm sure Google Colab is much faster system, but I wanted to share something simple to help you kind of get started. So this isn't built to process everything all in one go. It batches through a limited number of rows at a time, depending on your setup. So you can set up for 100 to 400 rows at a time. So it paces the call so it doesn't hit Google rate limit. And it picks up exactly where it left off on the next run. It sounds like a small detail and a little bit tedious, but it's the difference between the script that works on just 50 rows and one that still works when you have like 1,000. Again, this is just to get you started. You can always improve on the script once you're used to the API. So like Celeste said earlier, definitely start on a small batch. All right. And then this is a screenshot of what that dashboard looks like. So I'm going to go really quickly and kind of show you a live run. All right. So hopefully everyone can see that. All right, let me make it a little bit bigger. Hopefully I can make it bigger. Let's see here. Guess this is good. All right. It would not let me scroll. So I'm just going to show it like this. It's better. So hopefully everyone can see that. All right, so here's one example. Celeste was kind enough to send me a batch of reviews that she was able to scrape from a gym business. Like she mentioned, this is open data source, so you can definitely run it on competitors if you want. So let's say you're trying to just get your groove on and you want to kind of understand what the sentiment of a business or a competitor is. You could do something simple like this. What I do recommend is to always have kind of like an overview. You want to look at the total that you ran, the average score, that you saw throughout all of this analysis, and you want to break down of what the percentage of that positive is, that negative, and that neutral. And if you got more granular, like let's say you got something like semi-neutral, semi-negative, semi-positive, you can also have that breakdown there. Another great one is the comparison one. Like I said earlier, if you're running multiple, you might want to have a comparison of what that looks like. And then obviously you want to have different types of breakdowns here so that when you're presenting it or when you're using it for a presentation, you actually have different visualizations and different charts that you can choose from. I like to also have the text. So if you plan to share this, you want to be able to give something that your client or maybe that your team can scroll through so that they could read through that text and figure out like, okay, if this one was positive, why it was positive and what that person said. Or if it was a negative one, what was the negative reason for? I spoke earlier about sentiment polarity, and this can definitely be shown in so many different ways. And I can show you a couple of examples. In this one, I have the labels, and I kind of showed you just basically where that sentiment was the strongest and what sentiment led to the strongest emotion. So here, Yelp had the most positive and also the strongest positive emotion, followed then by Yelp's negative, and then you can see that the neutral ones were a lot lower in that emotional intensity. Here's a real world example where I actually created filters for categorizations. So you can also pick apart themes of this data. So if for this client that is in like the hospital and healthcare system, I was able to pick out themes as well. So things like staff and clinical experience, quality and safety care, general visits. So I can definitely go through all of these and filter it. So let's say I want to look at staff because you want to give that information to your client. You want to let them know like, hey, there is some sentiment behind people's feelings for the staff and clinic and a clinical experience. You can filter to that. If you just want to look at, let's say there are core topics that the client care about or core services or products, let's say it's women's health. You want to see, well, there's not a lot of conversation regarding that. So that might be good, that might be bad. So this is information. So take it at a glance and add that Troy, that Deanna Troy element to it, right? That area where you're now adding your own judgment, you're looking at the data and you're adding your own human element in order to communicate this information at ease. So that is one example, that way that you can do that. And back to that sentiment polarity, here is what it would look like if you were to show it with a lot more bubbles to kind of show more of that spread. And lastly, I promised y'all I was going to show you this bonus one. So let's walk through how people really looked at the Odyssey trailer. So overall, I looked at over 6,000 reviews. As I mentioned, the overall score of this movie in terms of the comment section was in the low neutrals. So this is a really important little detail here. And this is something that I also learned from taking the course with La Serena, is that you can get granular with this data, because a lot of the time it will show a negative like this and it will be bucketed as negative because, again, this is a machine. So it's taking the signals literally. But you can go even further and granularize this and actually make this a borderline negative, or you can make it a semi-neutral. So something like this can even help you understand, okay, the borderline negatives, what are they saying? And those could be reviews from the film that are actually giving constructive criticism and not necessarily bashing or saying anything negative, even regarding the controversy behind the film's casting. So another thing too that you can do that is really cool is like, let's say you want to look at, okay, so what happened in these 3 trailers over time? Like, how has the negative emotion increased? You can go just to the negative, look at the totals here, and then you can see over time the comments just got worse. Don't understand why. Honestly, I saw the film, it was great. I really don't understand why it got progressively worse. But this trailer did come out a few months before the film, and this trailer came out literally a few weeks, I think a week or 2 before that one. So that could be the reason that perhaps the campaign that they were driving or the campaign that they were using, the PR team, all of that led to way more negativity that they expected. but I still think the film is doing really good in the box office. So does this really indicate that the film is not a success or not? You'll be the judge of that. But if you're writing content for a blog, or if you're writing, or you're a content creator yourself, or you work with content creators, and you don't have a lot of budget for like a very fancy tool that can give you insights into audiences, this is a great way that you can take that YouTube data, create your own dashboard, and start finding topics that you can create either a really cool video blog about, or you can actually write publications about it. So that's really a really interesting way of using this data. And lastly, another thing I love about putting comments from YouTube is that it also shows you the posting time. So you can create sentiment over time as well. And you can see where things either dipped, increased. So the movie came out in July 17th. That's when it released here in the US. And as you can see, it spiked in terms of positivity, specifically for the first trailer, which I mentioned earlier was an older one. So don't underestimate the value of evergreen content on YouTube, or the value of a video that came out a long time ago, even though it's about the same topic. Add that in, as well as comments that you can pull from, because if you get the audience's reaction over time, or the sentiment score over time, you can analyze it with this chart and actually see whether that old video is still getting those reactions as well. So things like this is also very helpful in, again, taking the data that's qualitative, running it through an NLP system that is tasked to do this very specific analysis, and then visualize it so that you can then start adding your human judgment. All right. So that is all on my end when it comes down to it. All right. I gotta find the presentation now. Where did it go? All right. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to be sharing that as well with you all, so that then you can go in and either take the same visualizations or make it better. Go and create something really cool that you can share either with your clients or with your team. All right. Thanks.
Hi. So Celeste gave us the data, and Anna just went over amazing presentation, how her pipeline scores and visualizes everything. So I want to talk about just making these sentiments do some content work. And one way I like to do this is with a custom GPT. It's called the Real Experience Organizer. So what are we automating? We're automating the starting point, the jump from the data to an organized content opportunity. You know, like some of us, we're in agencies, we're working on multiple clients a day, and we're dealing with multiple start points, maybe in research and content tasks. So switching from one client context to another, it can be taxing. So this is a tool that could kind of help you with that. Keeps us focused, get to the work faster. Next slide, yeah. So when can we use this tool? I find it really valuable during like discovery and research stages. You know, mostly when you kind of want to like take off that hat sometimes and see through the customer eyes. Maybe you want to like combine your brand insights with customer insights. So we know that people read reviews and decide if your brand is even worth considering. I do this all the time. It's part of their decision-making process. And so it should play part in our research and content work as well. Good or bad reviews, this is the brand's community. And as Celeste mentioned, AI engines are pulling directly from reviews, so mining them from useful content and reinforcing some of that messaging across the brand's other platforms. It can really strengthen the brand's whole digital footprint. Consistent messaging, it's really important. Next slide. So I just want to go over like taking action. Let's see how this tool works. Our input's going to be the reviews, positive and negative. We're going to You could put in some competitor reviews, optional, but it's useful to have that and zoom out and look at like a wider space. And we're going to put in some basic info like URL, bio, and the brand's target audience. In our output, it's going to be a structured table of content opportunities. It's going to be organized, consolidated, and ready for the next step. Next slide. So let's get started. This is an output table example. The business is Lifetime. They are a luxury health club in California. This snapshot, it just has 2 reviews for now. But let's go over it kind of briefly, section by section. Okay, theme. The tool identifies the main theme. So for this one, it's luxury atmosphere and gym tour experience. Theme group. So if multiple reviews share a theme, you'll see the same number here. So if you're quickly looking for common theme patterns, this column will tell you that quickly. User reviews, this is the actual review you input. Or it could just be like YouTube comments, as Anna mentioned. It's anything you input, user-generated content. Content opportunity. So this is the big one. The tool is instructed to give multi-channel content ideas. So blogs, FAQ, web page content blogs, social media posts, YouTube, podcast, newsletter, anything. I just put a little arrow there because I like that content idea. So next one, yeah, user concerns. Briefly summarizes what the customer is concerned about. Platform, this one is from Google Business Profile. If you put in a competitor review, it'll be marked here. And any negative reviews, it'll be marked here. So this is the final like raw output, no formatting. And here is the full table. Thank you, Aaron and Reej. They gave us some anonymized WTS community feedback. So I formatted this how I like it myself. So how I like it is to highlight the content opportunity. I added a column called used, so I know which review idea I already worked on. So definitely you should, format and prioritize things as you like. Next slide. Okay, here are some 3 questions that you could get from the table. The first question is, what do customers care about the most? You could get this from the positive reviews. Just to give a use case, a past client had many customer reviews with team member mentions. So at that time, since they were going through a website redesign, it was a no-brainer for us that we should add a team page and a short bio for each of the core team members for them. And a second question we can answer is, what are customers struggling with or dissatisfied about? So those can come from negative reviews. To give a use case here, there was a local client in the auto industry. There were many compliments on the quality of the work, but also some complaints about the long wait times. So this gave us an opportunity to discuss this topic with the client and brainstorm what we could do to address it in the content. And a third question we can answer is kind of competitor questions. Where are competitors winning or falling short? If you put in competitor reviews, we can do a little spying and see where we could widen our coverage and content, where we could differentiate our brand more clearly. Last slide. Okay, so let me give you some tips for getting the most out of it. Good input is good output. So I select the longer and detailed reviews that have more of a backstory. Giving the GPT more context gives the model more specific and concrete material to work with. So the content ideas are grounded in more of the actual voice of the customer data instead of drifting into generic suggestions. I also like recent reviews since they're more current and relevant. And, protect your data. I'm on ChatGPT Plus account, so I turn off the improved model for everyone. It's turned on by default, but that's up to you. But if you don't want your chat conversation included in training the model, you have to go under settings and data control and toggle that off. And a third tip is make it yours. I'll share the GPT instructions, make a copy, put it under your account, build it to suit your workflow. That way you have complete control over it, and you could even give it a better name. I don't think I have a good name for this GPT. And of course you could use as is, up to you. And if you want to put this tool into Claude, on the same doc, I included Claude instructions as well. And you could put that into Claude project and they'll work really well. And the next tip is, it was shared before with Celeste as well. Start with a few at a time and check the output and see, before like scaling up. And the last one is about, your expertise and creativity being everything. So we started this journey with the real voices, the reviews, then we used the GPT to automate the leap into content ideas. Now it's time to bring the human back in the loop and make the content and by extension, the brand memorable. So we could do this by bringing our brand knowledge and our creativity to make the content relatable and meaningful to your community. Building human connection brings in our perspective, building human connection, bringing in our perspective, that is our job. I included a quote from Marie that links so well with this. It's from her recent blog post from the Digital Marketing Institute, so we should all check that out. I wanted to get to the questions. I hope I didn't go too quickly. But you'll have the slides.
That was brilliant. Thank you so, so much. All three of you, you are amazing. I am absolutely in awe. And I don't know if you, I know that we went kind of fast at the end, but if you do go back to the suggestions Catherine made specifically for WTS, I just want to call that out. Like, we loved it. Each saw it and was like, we should do all of those things. Why aren't we doing all of those things? So thank you so much for putting this together and also coming up with such great suggestions. We do have a couple of questions which I'm going to go to if that's okay. We've got a question from an attendee who says, have you found a way to use this for LinkedIn, especially given the API lockdown? I think that, well, yeah, questions.
I personally have not used it on LinkedIn yet. Unfortunately, a lot of the clients that I have don't get a lot of engagement on LinkedIn. I think it would be interesting to use it with competitors, though. I think when that opportunity comes, where we will need to leverage LinkedIn, we will need to look at competitors or at least thought leaders within that space in order to gauge the sentiment or to gauge the audience responses from like a similar topic or service.
Yeah, I also don't have personal experience with LinkedIn since I'm in like the local enterprise space. So it's not where they are. But I know Apify does have LinkedIn scrapers on there. How good they are, I cannot personally tell you, but it's worth testing with how cheap usually the data pools are and with the free credits that you get each month.
Great, thank you. We have one more question as well. Do you have any suggestions for data storage? So to be able to conserve the data from previous crawls historically and kind of do week over week analysis or impact analysis over time?
And do you want to go first or do you want me to go?
I'm thinking,
Yeah.
currently right now, in terms of data storage, I do not use Google Cloud to store any of the data that I pull, because that's expensive. I currently use Google Cloud for another, so I could tell you from personal experience, it's going to cost you the more you keep that in storage. It depends also on how much you have stored. So I tend to just keep it to that project. But I tend to just save it like on a cloud storage system. If it's for clients and stuff like that, your business internally should have a cloud service, that maybe like a OneDrive, and you can share that and you can save that data there. I am running a similar analysis where when I run my cursor, it saves all of my outputs to that OneDrive. So it saves everything to the cloud, then storing it locally or losing that data over time.
Yeah, it's going to entirely depend on your approach here and the size of the clients that you're working on. Let's say small local clients, we've seen reviews are disappearing. So, you want to keep pulling that data, making sure you have recent data pulls that can live in a spreadsheet, if it's not a crazy amount, can live in cloud. like Anna said as well. So it's entirely going to depend on the size of the clients that you're working on and the method that you're going about to do the sentiment analysis. Where, if you are putting it into the spreadsheet and running the NLP API, like Anna said, then it's going to just keep living in the spreadsheet world. So yeah, it's entirely just dependent on that. And now I'm on the product side, so I've been working on building something like that with the data storage too. So it's a really good question to have.
Yeah, wonderful. Catherine, do you do anything specific with your clients? Because I know that you do keep some of the reviews, like I've kind of seen.
Yeah, I'm at a new job now, but before I was in local SEO and we were using Google Drive and I've been like organizing them with tabs
Hmm.
just to compare how it shifts over time. But I know
Yeah.
like Anna has an even better way of like sentiment analysis over time. But I've been like just like utilizing my tabs, like running it quarterly, storing like the long detailed, like really juicy ones there. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, thank you again so much that those we have got through the questions. We
I
are
think
on
there was
time.
one more in the chat.
Oh, we ported it over, I think. Let me just double
Just
check. Thank you for the heads up.
yeah, I was like, just want to make sure I respond to
One
them.
sec.
They're asking about working with APIs.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
oh my goodness. Once you can just see me, if my eyes look crazy, it's because I'm doing scrolling.
I got it. I'll just, so it says, I've not done any work with APIs before and ensuring it's on local, which Celeste mentioned. Are there any instructions anywhere to do this correctly and securely? So if we're going the Google Colab route, let's say that you are trying to build that. When you are, make sure that if you're using ChatGPT or Claude and you're saying you're working with an API, just don't give it your API key. Just say, I'm working with this Apify API, and you can put the link to the API. I'm working with it. I want to pull the reviews, the review name, and star rating and text. Let's just say you want to pull those things. This is the API I want to work with. Please write like a collab script for me. And it will give you a script that will have like insert API key here. You'll grab that, paste it into Colab, and now it's in your own Colab, so you're fine. You're safe to work with it. You can paste your API in there. But obviously, if you start sharing that Colab, make sure your API is not in there so that way it's secure. And with apify.com, you can always go into your settings and copy and paste your API from there. But you might want to save it locally, just create a little text file on your desktop and paste it and save it there.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for catching that question. I'm so sorry I missed that. I was enthralled by all of you. You are incredible. Thank you so much for putting this together and collaborating on this. This is honestly absolutely wonderful. For all of our attendees, we will be shortly sending out an email. You're going to get links to all of the things that Celeste, Anna, and Catherine have shared, so you can go play with these things. As they have highlighted, all of these things are like a starting point, a jumping off point, play with these things, figure out something that like works best for your use cases, for your clients. And we'd love to see you share what you do with these things as well. So like, just like Celeste, Anna, and Catherine have done. Bring what you've built back to the community, share it, let other folks play and build on it as well. That would be brilliant. We love to see this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I can't thank you
Thank
enough.
you.
You're so brilliant,
Thank you.
so clever. I'm absolutely blown away by you all. And thank you to our marvelous attendees for joining us, and being so wonderful in the chat and for all of your amazing questions. We'll be back soon with another WTS talk, I am sure. But yeah, in the meantime, I will close the session for today. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So much.
Bye.